meeting of the October 30th meeting of the Linden Board of Education. Order, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The Open Public Meetings Act, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting has been provided as follows. On January 10, 2018, notice was sent to the Homeowners Tribune, Star Ledger, local source, and the clerk of the municipality. By state law, there is no smoking permitted in this building at any time. In addition to the listed items in this agenda, this Board of Education may discuss and act upon other items not specifically referred to herein, as is allowed under the regular meeting, scheduled monthly meeting under the Sunshine Law.
A roll call.
Mr. Martucci?
Here.
Mr. Shahada?
Here.
Mrs. Villani? Mrs. Welsh? Here. Mrs. Fabiano? Present. Mrs. Birch? Here. Ms. Gilliam? Here. Ms. Kozak? Here. Mr. Topoleski?
Here. Approval of minutes. I'd like a motion for the approval of minutes.
I make that motion.
Second. Roll call.
Mr. Martucci?
No.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Villani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welsh?
Yes.
Mrs. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam? No. Ms. Kozak? No. Mr. Topoleski?
Yes. I'd like to move to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Topoleski. Good evening, board members, faculty, staff, members of the community. Welcome to our monthly Board of Education meeting. If you have not done so already, please pick up my full superintendent's report. There are copies on the stage. This report is a newsletter that's published each month on the day of our board meetings. It's available in print tonight. It will be sent out electronically through email and on our social media tomorrow. It's an interactive newsletter that contains short articles that give a rundown on all of the amazing things that are going on in our district. You can click on more photos, you can click on links to videos sometimes, and I encourage you to please pick up a copy tonight. I just want to update the board on New Jersey Department of Education has recently adopted changes to the park assessment. The park assessment, as you all know, has been somewhat controversial in New Jersey and in other states. The New Jersey Department of Education has changed the name of the assessment. It is no longer called park. It is now called the NJSLA. And there's one for language arts and there's one for math. All of the tests have been shortened. All tests are 1 unit shorter, except for middle school math, which is shorter in time, but not in the amount of units. We'll still remain with the Pearson platform. And students enrolled in language arts 9th and 10th grade and Algebra 1, Geometry, and Algebra 2 will be tested. We do not yet know what the requirements will be for graduation, but the proposed regulations are that students will need to pass the 10th grade language arts test in order to graduate high school and Algebra 1. So we're waiting to hear on that. Tonight on the attorney's report, I'm strongly recommending to the Board of Education that we approve a shared service agreement between the City of Linden and the Board of Education to provide special law enforcement officer, Class 3 officers to our school district. This is something that the board has been discussing for 8 or 9 months since the tragedy in Parkland, Florida. And what a Class 3 officer is it's a law enforcement officer. It's a retired officer that is hired by the police department that reports to the chief of police, but their sole responsibility is school security. So in order to make this happen, the city council and the board have to enter into a shared services agreement. I'd like to thank our mayor and city council for approving the resolution at their last meeting. And I'm going to be asking the board to do that tonight. If the agreement's approved tonight, we anticipate that we'll have these Class 3 officers in our schools by January 1st, after interviews, background checks, and all that that goes along with it. The plan right now is to have an officer. We already have a school resource officer at Linden High School. The plan is to have another officer at the Academy building across the street, to have one officer at each middle school, and to have one officer at School 2. Those are our largest schools. And we want to, I don't want to call it a pilot, it's not a pilot, but we want to see how it works. And if it works, then each year I may come to the board and ask to hire an additional officer or two until we have one in each school. So the key to this whole thing is having a shared service agreement, having it approved by the council, having it approved by the board, but most importantly, finding the right people for the job, people who can work with children. So that'll be my job.
Question, just my own person. Are they going to be in uniform or no?
They will be in uniform.
In uniform.
Yes, sir. They will be in uniform and they will be armed. So that's the business tonight. Now we have some fun stuff to do. We have an outstanding student here who's receiving recognition tonight. We have a teacher who's getting a special recognition tonight, and then we have 20 or so faculty and staff who are being recognized here tonight. If you're looking around and wondering why so many people are here, they're not here to see me, I can assure you that. So we're going to get on with that. Mr. Tobolewski, I would ask if the entire board would come down and join us.
The entire board to go downstairs so that as the teachers receive the awards.
Thank you, sir. You can. You have a nice haircut. Ladies and gentlemen, it's always, sometimes these Board of Education meetings get a little boring or dry, so it's always nice that we can recognize students and our faculty and staff. So we have a very special guest tonight. Kyle Lipscomb is here, and I'm going to say a few things about him, and then we're going to call up our athletic director, Mr. Viana, to say a few things about him. But Kyle is not only an excellent student, but he had one of the most outstanding track and field seasons that we've ever had in the history of the Linden Public Schools last school year, while competing in the shot put and discus throw. According to everyone that knows him, he has just a tremendous work ethic and attention to detail, and that's what's been able to give him the consistency that he's had throughout the seasons. And he finished, these are some of the accomplishments. He finished in first place at the NJSIAA sectional championships in the shot put, and then capped off his season by having a remarkable run in the States by finishing second in the entire state in the discus at the sectional championship, in the Group 4 championships, and in the prestigious Meet of Champions, where he posted a school record of 184 feet 8 inches. We're happy to have Kyle back for another year. He returns as the top shot putter in the entire state of New Jersey. And also the top returning discus thrower in the state for the spring. So There's some other people that want to say some nice things about you too, Kyle. So I'm going to have Mr. Viana, our athletic director, come up. Steve, would you join me, please? We wanted to honor Kyle last year at the June board meeting, but this season was still going on, and plus, as a state championship, he's going to get a very special gift tonight. We wanted to order that and make sure that that came in before we recognized him. Mr. Viana?
Good evening, everyone. I want to thank, obviously, Dr. Bertozzi, the Board of Education, and of course, Kyle, and of course, our coaches out there tonight. You know, I think Dr. Bertozzi stole a lot of our thunder here with all the accomplishments. I have a few more to mention. But I don't think they brought their PJs tonight, so we have a lot of time to talk about Kyle and all of his accomplishments for this year. But, you know, I'm of the old adage that it takes a village, and Kyle is one of the most upstanding and outstanding students we have at Linden High School. He is a remarkable young man. He's humble, he's unassuming, and he's maybe one of the most respectful students I've ever had the opportunity to work with or work alongside or watch. You wouldn't know the accomplishments that he's achieved. He won't say a word to you about them. He won't talk about them. All he talks about is practice and doing well in school. On top of everything that Dr. Bertozzi has already said, he's also been on the honor roll for every single marking period that he's been. With a throw of 53 feet, 3 inches and a quarter, he was the Section 2 shot put champion. So Kyle, if you want to come up for some long-awaited hardware, I'd love to have you join up here with us. We would like to present him. We would like to present him with his Group 4, Section 2 championship ring. Can I have all of our coaches who are here with us tonight? I want to also recognize them. Coach Danny McDonald, Coach Frank Green, Coach Monty Brooks have all been alongside him, and of course, all the family members who have come out here to be with us to support.
Another round of applause, please, for Kyle. So what's the best thing you heard about that? You know, athletics is great, right? Athletics is wonderful. Athletics is something that some students just come to school for. But before anything else, Kyle is a student, and that's what makes me most proud. So it's a great job. Tonight, it's also our honor to recognize an outstanding teacher who we've always known that she's outstanding, but now she's getting some recognition outside of Linden that she so greatly deserves. Linden High School dance and physical education teacher Barbara Brady has been given the tremendous honor of being chosen as the Union County Teacher of the Year. So to put that in perspective, every district in Union County and every school within that district nominates a teacher. And then each district takes that pool and nominates one teacher as their Teacher of the Year. And then Union County picks one to represent the county. That is a pretty awesome accomplishment. Mrs. Brady has been teaching in Linden for 20 years. She was also named Dance Teacher of the Year for 2018 for the Eastern District of the United States, a region that includes New Jersey, Connecticut, Delaware, District of Columbia, Maine, Maryland, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New York, Pennsylvania, Puerto Rico, Rhode Island, Vermont, and the U.S. Virgin Islands. Like the best. Received that selection, that made her one of 6 finalists in the entire country for Dance Teacher of the Year. She was also runner-up for National Dance Teacher of the Year back in 2013, as well as State Dance Teacher of the Year in 2012 and 2016, as selected by the New Jersey Association for Health, Phys Ed, Recreation, and Dance. When Mrs. Brady learned that she had received the County Teacher of the Year honor, she was surprised with the news during her class. So we set her up, and we had Mrs. Horry, our principal, tell her that we were coming in to do some sort of press release and to take pictures on some other issue, and we came in with me and the county superintendent and several board members, and normally that's not a good thing. But the county superintendent congratulated her in front of her students. We put that video up on our social media page, and it was viewed thousands of times. It was really a heartwarming moment. You could really see how much her students loved her because they were so happy that their teacher was recognized. So, yeah, they had to keep it a secret for months because we weren't allowed to tell anybody, which is why it's now October, and we're finally letting the cat out of the bag, Barbie. So, on a side note, this is Linden's 2nd Union County Teacher of the Year in the last 3 years. Mrs. Brady, would you please join us on the stage?
Mom, want to come up? Mr. Brady, take a picture.
Before Dr. Rubitosi goes on, I just have something to say about Mrs. Brady. Mrs. Brady, I've known her since my daughter was in 4th grade, I think. She ran a summer theater program at one of the schools, and she actually recruited my son because I needed a beast for Beauty and the Beast. Later, when Mrs. Brady became the high school dance teacher, it happened to be when my daughter was a senior. So she actually got to dance for Barbie for a year. And it was a great experience for them. And I believe my daughter substituted for you when you were on maternity leave. So it goes full circle. I was an officer in Mystic Vision, which is the theater company that you're president, right? Yeah, Barbie's president of the theater company that does a lot of work here in Union County. So that takes care of that now.
Well, Mr. Topoleski, don't go too far because I'm now going to turn over my report to our board president. Mr. Topoleski will be, you need glasses. Mr. Topoleski has been on the board for a long time. And he will be leaving the board this year. He's retiring. And he tells me I'm his fourth superintendent, third superintendent. So, and he has been trying to get this done for all of his 18 and a half years on the Board of Education. He's always wanted to recognize our staff for reaching milestones in their career. So tonight, Mr. Topoleski, as one of your final actions, you get to recognize we have 20 employees here tonight who have, this year, have reached 25 years of service to the students in the Linden Public School District. 25 or more years of service. So Mr. Topoleski is going to call you up. I'm going to give you a small gift, a token of our appreciation, and please stay here for a picture.
Some of you might remember that we did something similar to this in May because our experienced staff hadn't been recognized at all. We looked at the number of how many people we would have to recognize and realized we couldn't do it in one meeting. The other thing was, in October, that's when you've completed the previous, you've already completed the previous year, so you will achieve your 25 years. So from this point on, every year we will, Dr. Robotosi tells me, it won't be me, that they will be recognizing any staff members that reach 25 years in the district. So with that being said, oh yeah, it's first name, last name, right? Dean Chester. Dean Chester is custodian at Administration Building, 30 years of service. You want to come up? Bernadette Bettino, teacher of English, IB coordinator, Linden High School, 30 years of service. Denise Cleary, assistant superintendent, Administration Building, 30 years of service. Dr. Robotosi said I'm going too fast.
Well, these are two of my high school teachers. Mrs. Cleary. Mrs. Cleary was my biology teacher in high school. She's now my assistant superintendent. And anytime I get out of line, she reminds me. And she pulls the grade book out of her office, which she still has.
Is that, yeah. Carol Citroni, teacher of grade 2 through 4, 29 years. No, that's right. Rose Goldstein, supervisor science, 29 years. So I'm not getting through Robotosi, that's for sure. Sharon Siebert, teacher of special education, LHS Academy, 28 years. Joanne D'Annunzio, Media Specialist, McManus Middle School, 28 years. Tracy Lepore, instructional teacher, reading coach, reading school 5, 27 years. Claire Mead, secretary, school 10, early childhood, 27 years. Bozina Schultz, teacher of ESL and Russian, Linden High School, 27 years. Krista Weiss, teacher of special education resource, school 8, 27 years. Tracy Capalbo, teacher of grade 4, school 10, 26 years. Beverly McGinnis, secretary, LHS Academy, medical office, 25 years.
I didn't count. 30 years.
Inez Andriola, custodian, LHS Academy, 25 years. Kevin Thurston, Vice Principal, LHS, 25 years. Thomas Donahue, teacher, coach, mathematics, Seoul Middle School, 25 years. And Lee Gaskins III, teacher of art, LHS Academy, 25 years. There are other people that are not here tonight that are going to be recognized.
In my office. We only put on the list everybody who RSVP'd. Is there anybody here who's here who we forgot? Thank God. Okay, hey guys, let's take a group picture. Come on, family picture. Come on, family picture. We're gonna need 2 rows. We're gonna need 2 rows.
We have to do some business, and we're going to leave, so you guys can stay. I will accept the motion to go into executive session for purposes of personnel and litigation.
Sorry, I made the motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
You guys can, thank you for waiting. We don't get pressing issues. Now I got to see where we are. Oh, attorney report.
There are 3 items on the attorney report this evening. Two are dealing with, one is an SRO agreement, the other is with the special class 3s, and the third item is an approval of a settlement agreement for an employee as listed. I request a motion, please.
Somebody move?
Second.
Teresa moved, Ahmed seconded. Roll call?
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Bebiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Birch?
Yes.
Mrs. Gillian?
Yes.
Mrs. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Topolesky?
Yes. Curriculum and instruction report, Mrs. Bebiano.
The Curriculum and Instruction Committee, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Assistant Superintendent, present the following 32 motions to the Linden Board of Education for approval. Items 1 through 9 deal with the approval of specialized programs for the placement of classified students, determination of specialized programs for classified students, the approval of payments for related services, the approval of parent reimbursements, the approval of bilingual evaluators for related services, contracts for transportation, and the approval of consultative and home instruction services. Item 10 approves team sports schedules for the winter season. 11 amends board action on past C&I reports. 12 authorizes curriculum writing. 13 grants permission for use of facilities and school activities. 14 approves district field trips and amendments. 15, 24, 25, and 32 approve training for district staff. 16 approves the faculty Spanish communication project. 17 approves the annual tuition for Linden resident students to attend Union County Vocational Technical School programs. 18 authorizes the administration of IB exams. 19 approves Title I lunchtime and after-school tutoring. 20 approves EduSeer courses for 12th grade students. 21 approves the pre-K Teddy Roundup schedule. 22 grants permission for school trips to participate in the City Hall tree lighting ceremony, school groups. 23 grants permission to apply for the Frederick L. HIP grant. 26 grants approval for high school students to travel to the Dominican Republic as part of the Global Connections Club. 27 grants approval for Peer Pals to collaborate with McManus Middle School for student monitoring. 28 approves the school self-assessment for determining grades under the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights Act. 29 and 30 approves the submission of the FY 2018 ESEA Final Expenditure Report and the ESEA Title I Comparability Report. And item 31 proclaims November 12th through 16th as American Education Week to be celebrated in the Linden Public Schools. Mr. President, I move items 1 through 32 and respectfully seek a second.
Roll call.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Bebiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak?
Yes.
Mr. Topolesky?
Yes.
Management Operations Report, Mrs. Valani.
The Management Operations Committee, upon recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, present the following motions to the Linden Board of Education for approval. Item 1 sadly acknowledges the passing of Robert Dallinger Sr., and I'll pass that to you.
Thank you, Mrs. Valani. Mr. Dallinger was a longtime employee for the Linden Board of Education. He worked for the district for 35 years. He taught English at Seoul Middle School and Linden High School. He retired in 1991. His son, also Robert Dallinger, worked for our district, just retired a few years ago. I had the opportunity to work with, to know both of them. So just want to offer our condolences to the family of Mr. Dallinger.
Items number 2 and 27 are the regretful acceptance of 3 employee retirements, and again, Dr. Rapatozzi.
Thank you, Mrs. Valani. To recognize and congratulate these employees on their retirement, Mrs. Doris Bolden, who I had the opportunity to work with at Linden High School. Doris was a paraprofessional in our district. She worked at schools 1, 2, 5, 9, and 10. Mr. Ronald Bornstead, who worked for the Board of Education, our maintenance department, for 15 years. And Mr. Joseph Cataline, who worked as a technology teacher in elementary schools and district-wide now since 1972, which gives him 46 years of experience. Congratulations to those employees on their retirement, and we wish you nothing but the best. Thank you for your service to Linden's children.
Items 3 and 28 amend board action on past management operation reports as listed. Item number 4 is a resignation. Items 5, 8 through 24, 26, 29 are a variety of staff appointments for the 2018-2019 school year as listed. Items number 6 and 30 approve leaves of absence. Item number 7 recognizes and congratulates the employees who have 25 or more years of service, which we acknowledged earlier this evening. Item number 25 is a reappointment for the listed paraprofessionals for the 2018-2019 school year.
Mr. President, I move management and operation items 1 through 30 and respectfully ask for a second.
Second.
I'm sorry, I didn't see those on my list when I pulled it up. Items number 31 is a transfers as listed, and item number 32 is a resignation. Again, Mr. President, I move management and operations, items 1 through 32, and respectfully ask for a second.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Topolesky?
Yes. Support operations report, Mr. Martucci.
The Support Operations Committee, upon the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools and the Business Administrative Board Secretary, present the following motions to the Linden Board of Ed for approval. In Finance, I move 1 through 19, and Facilities 1 through 6. Ask for second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak?
Yes.
Mr. Topolesky?
Yes. Planning and policy, Mr. Shahada.
No report this month, Mr. President.
There's one.
We're going to amend one amendment. The Planning and Policy Committee, upon recommendation of the Superintendent and Assistant Superintendent, present the following motions to the Linden Board of Education for approval. Number 1, amend board action. Item number 2. Mr. President, I ask for a second.
Second.
Roll call.
Mr. Martucci?
Yes.
Mr. Shahada?
Yes.
Mrs. Valani?
Yes.
Mrs. Welch?
Yes.
Mrs. Fabiano?
Yes.
Mrs. Birch?
Yes.
Ms. Gilliam?
Yes.
Ms. Kozak? Yes. Mr. Topolesky?
Yes. Negotiations, Mrs. Alani.
I believe I announced last month that we successfully settled the first contract, and now we're meeting on the 1st and again on the 13th for the custodian and maintenance staff.
Or hopefully not the 13th.
Or hopefully not the 13th, and we'll have it settled for the 1st. And I do believe that Mr. Topolesky has reached out to the supervisors.
Supervisors have reached out, and I actually mentioned that we would talk about dates on the first one we meet.
So we are moving in the right direction, and that's the end of the report.
Thank you. EST for parents.
And
Mrs. and student. Well, I wasn't going to say high school because you always give me a look when I do that, because you finish one and then EST for parents and high school students. Mrs. Birch.
Thank you, Mr. President. We had our student EST meeting in the cafeteria at Linden High School on October 17th at 8 a.m. Mrs. Kushner was our advisor. Mr. Piketty was able to drop in and see us while we were having our meeting. We had 3 seniors, 4 juniors, 3 seniors, 4 juniors, 5 sophomores, and 4 freshmen. 9 were ladies, 7 were gentlemen, so we had a great mix. We had Mr. Walters that came in from technology. He came in to speak with the students about if they had any issues regarding their laptops or any kind of technology. Some of the kids said they were having a problem with Turnitin, for their essays, it wasn't working. They were also concerned that they can't connect in the lunchroom to the internet, and he also talked to them and said, if you need to come and see us, this is how you can do it. Get a pass from, your VP, come over if you have any problems with the laptop. So he gave them a lot of great information, and the students are awesome with getting that information out to the rest of their peers. So we thank Mr. Walters for that. Some of the discussion that we had, the students talked about the summer reading packets and the math packets. They felt that the guiding questions on one of the packets weren't very helpful. They said that they would rather see the summer packets be given as extra credit. They also said that they weren't happy that the answers for the math packet were given also, which was a surprise. They said that it seemed, what was the sense in doing it if they were given the answers. They had some concerns about freshmen congregating in the crowded hallways, and that came from a freshman. So she said that they still haven't figured out how to rally through the hallways, and they wanted to know if maybe some more teachers could be at the doors helping them and guiding them. They were talking about some of the issues with the traffic flowing across St. George Avenue. They said that the lights were not working properly for them, at least on the Summit Street side. They said it takes 2 rotations, it's almost like a double light, and they're very late getting back to the building to change. And then they said that the traffic light in front of the vocational building, the academy building, it changes too quick. So it doesn't give them enough time for the amount of students going across back and forth on St. George Avenue. They were concerned about a leak on the stage here in the auditorium. They said it was over by where the piano was, and that some of the boards on the stage are starting to warp and kids are tripping on them. They were also discussed there was a sewer smell in the girls' locker room, and that the ceiling in the boys' locker room was falling down. Both boys and girls talked about the sinks not working in the restrooms and in the locker rooms. They gave props to Mrs. Kushner for all of her help and guidance in promoting their Spirit Week, and for all of the homecoming dance and all of the activities that she was involved in. They said every activity was wonderful and they had a great time at all of the functions. One of the other good things that I was very happy to hear was that the teachers are doing better with getting the grades in Genesis. They said this year has been a lot better, so they were happy with that. They said it's taking about 5 days now to get their grades, so they said it's coming along. They had a concern about not to say our social workers, but they said that the social workers there's students that have some issues and they don't actually know who the social workers are or where to go. So they want us to somehow showcase our social workers and make the students aware of who they are, where they are, and how they can go and see them. So I think that was a very good idea coming from the students, that we get our social workers out there and let them be known. Also, the National Honor Society does some tutoring after school, and not everybody knows that, so the students wanted us to let everybody know that if your child is in the high school and they need some tutoring, that they can go and see some of the students at National Honor Society in the library. They have tutoring for them. And this is all coming from the students. We had a this meeting, I have to say I walked away the happiest because it was so productive. They talked about SATs and taking the SATs and the cost of the SATs, and if there was any way that we can help defer that cost so that some of these students can take the SATs, because it does become costly if you're taking them more than once. They wanted to discuss having more pep rallies, but I think that's been taken care of. So right now they're talking about having 2 pep rallies. We already had our fall, and they're going to probably do a winter one. They wanted the ROTC to be more involved in the pep rally. They asked for a better sound system at the field, because they said it was extremely hard to hear what was going on. And also they wanted the drill and trick team from ROTC, they wanted also to be involved in the pep rally. There were some Pomptonian discussions. They said the food is the same every week. They would like to see a better variety. Some foods are okay, but they said occasionally they'll throw in something different, but they would like to see different entrees. Peter is a new employee with Pomptonian and is in our lunchroom, and they absolutely love him. So maybe Peter can help out with all the other employees to get them going. But they're very happy with their new employee. They wanted to know when our grand opening was for the media center, and they wanted to know if at our media center they heard some rumors that we were having coffee for them, and they wanted to know, some of them weren't coffee drinkers, if we could include tea and hot chocolate. There was an issue in one of the classrooms back by 312. They said what's happening is the custodians are going in and emptying the trash cans, but they're not changing the bags. They're just dumping the trash and leaving the bags and not changing the bags. And one of our other discussions, and it was pretty lengthy, was on the support of all of the sports teams. And for instance, we have the Orange Army for our basketball team, and that's a group of kids that come out and they support the basketball team and they chant and cheer, and they wanted to know if that could be done for some of the other sports. One of the suggestions that we thought would maybe work out is we could get a representative from each of the sports teams and maybe have them come to each one of the games and just be a support team at each one of the games. So we're talking about it, we're kicking it around. They said the ROTC has Martin Luther King Day here. We host an event, and they said that they would like to see some support there also. One of the last things we talked about was the school store. They don't know what happened to it. They'd like to see it come back. They don't know if it's opening back up, if there was an issue with it. So they were discussing that. We haven't decided on a date yet for November. As soon as I get that date, I will let everybody know, but that does conclude my report for the student EST. On to the parent EST. That was held October 9th at the administration building. We started at 7 p.m. We had parents from the high school, McManus, Seoul, School 1, 4, 5, 6, 9. We had someone representing the administration building. We had an aunt attend our meeting, and someone from the PDRC. Mr. Kondratowicz and Mrs. Irizarry Clark presented that evening, and they talked about our test scores and the data. They answered some questions from the parents, and I think they did a great job, and we thank them for their time. We then went on to open up our meeting, and some of the parents asked if we could either send some flyers home or send out more reminders for some of the important things that we're doing, like the EST meetings, the board meetings, if they can get more reminders for that. So I think we've looked into that, and we're going to check on that some more. There was a parent that was concerned about the late policy at the high school. She said that it was unfair that the students were being punished for being late for the first time. They wanted to see some kind of a progressive discipline, whereas if you're, not the first time you get a warning, the second time, they said 3 lates seems a little bit better than the first time, then you get office detention. So we discussed that. We also talked about adding a link maybe to the calendar that allows us to have some of these events put on the calendar, like the EST meetings and PTA meetings and things like that on our board calendar. They said that one of the parents brought up at one of the schools, she said her daughter is struggling. She doesn't, she's having a hard time. She doesn't feel that she's getting enough help, and she wanted to know how students are picked to get that extra help. And we told her that she would have to, notify the, Mrs. Stefanik and go through that process. But she said that, her daughter, she asked a couple of times, she didn't qualify, so she wanted to know if there was a way that we can get help out to the students that might not qualify. The first week of school, we had gotten some new kids and they weren't tested for G&T, and there was a parent that was concerned about that, and she wanted to know when we were going to be testing those students. Then we went on and we discussed the signing in of Think Central and how parents were having a hard time with that, and homework being put on Think Central. They wanted to know when homework was going to be put on that. Over at School 6, there are still some concerns about the cars going in the wrong way on Clinton Street. These parents are saying it's a very dangerous situation for the students that are in the parking lot and for the teachers and staff. The parents still keep going in the wrong way, and they're very concerned that, again, someone might be hurt. They wanted to know if all teachers can maybe go on the Remind and use Remind, because they said it's very helpful. There were concerns about parents bringing their dogs or pets for pickup and drop off at some of the schools. Some of the concerns were like allergies and safety and things like that, so they brought that up. Bathrooms at Seoul Middle School, they said the second and third floor girls' locker rooms, the latches on the doors are broken and the girls can't shut the doors. They were concerned about the cleanliness and the supplies. They wanted to know if we could do a program called Beautify the Restrooms and see if each building could spearhead something like that so that we can beautify our restrooms. A parent was concerned about the renovations, or not to say renovations, but the pointing and the work that's going on at School 6. She said the supplies are like all over the place, the contractor's leaving them out. There's a pod there for them to put them in, but they're not putting it in. And she says it just looks horrible. And she said, I don't even know why half of that stuff wasn't stolen yet, but at this point, she says she feels it's dangerous for our students and would like for the contractors to clean up their stuff as long as they're working. And that concludes my report. Our next meeting is November, I'm sorry, I didn't write that down, November 13th, right, at 7 p.m. at the Administration Building. We do have refreshments and coffee, and please bring your friends, come out. We'd like to hear what's going on in the district. We'd like to hear your concerns, and we'd like to hear all of the great things that are going on in the district.
While I have you, Mrs. Birch, Student Judiciary, I believe we have a meeting coming up.
Monday, November 7th at 7 p.m.
Okay. Mrs. Welsh.
November 5th.
I apologize. Monday, November 5th, thank you.
Mrs. Welsh, Mrs. Valani's got to work that night?
Right.
Yeah, we'll say that. We have to
She has another
address an issue.
And we would, I would appreciate you attending the meeting in her stead.
Sure, November 5th.
At 7 p.m. at the Administration.
Okay, very good.
Okay. EST for middle school students, Mrs. Guillaume.
Yes. So I met with Seoul Middle School and McManus. I'm gonna group them because they pretty much said similar things. So most of the students enjoy their math teacher because of the activities that they do in the classroom. Some of the students said that they love the fact that their teacher does fun activities with them, which is helping them learn. And they would like that all of their math teachers do the same or be on the same page. They would like more events that include McManus Middle School. This was Seoul students that made that comment, other than Unity Day. They love the walkathon that they had, and they're looking forward to doing it again. They are happy that the homework is being spread out, that they're assigned a homework assignment on a Monday and it's due on a Thursday, so they really enjoy that they don't have homework every day. Full schools mentioned, the double security is okay. but they would feel a lot safer if they had a security person at their door all day, even while they're on their break. They would prefer someone to be present on their lunches, and preferably not a teacher, more so crisis intervention. But I had told them that we were working on having police officers in our districts, and they were very pleased about that. Both schools are having issues with their iPads. I had addressed this with the superintendent. The iPads are breaking very easy with their cases, so they were a little concerned about that. Both groups also mentioned they do not like being compared in honor students versus non-honor students. They said that it was extremely stressful hearing the difference between the two in reference to their behavior and intelligence. McManus students said that they really believe that, they were talking about the double doors. The doors in the classrooms. They said some of the doors do not lock, and they would prefer to have a blind that's covering the window that's in the door. I also addressed this with the superintendent. For security reasons, they're having issues with logging into Canvas and sending assignments. The students are also having issues with their keyboard staying attached to the iPad. This is about lunch. Pizza isn't a lunch anymore. It's a snack, and they have to be paid. They have to pay for that. I also addressed that to the superintendent. And lastly, the students mentioned that they feel as though when a student is perceived to have melancholic behavior, a teacher, like pretty much administrators, are not approaching them, and they're discussing this amongst one another. So I had a counselor sitting in. With me, and they suggested that students are more than welcome to come seek them, to see them and speak to them. And so it was very genuine, and I also gave the best advice that I could give. And I also addressed this to the superintendent, and Dr. Robertosi suggested perhaps we need to implement more workshops or presentations for the students to prevent self-harm or onto others. Overall, it was a wonderful experience, and Mr. Martucci and I are excited to see them in November. That concludes my EST meeting.
Thank you, Ms. Guillaume.
You're welcome.
EST for special ed, do we have any?
On January 22.
No, we don't have any yet? We gotta get in touch with,
I think there was one.
There was one?
There was one, yeah. I don't know when the next one is, but I'll find out.
Okay, thank you. Ed Services Commission, Ms. Guillaume.
Okay. So the Union County Education Service Commission meeting also went well. We have a new secretary, which is Eric Layson. We went over CARC assessment for the results for 2017 and 2018 school year. School assessment for determining grades under the anti-bullying rate. They're looking for a biology teacher, so if anyone is interested that qualifies, you're more than welcome. Improvements on 571 Street. So pretty much it was a street that's having a lot of accidents, and they're just trying their best to improve it to prevent incidents from occurring. They also talked about training for subs and contractors for the HIB. There was a workshop that the board president attended, and it was about students attending vocational school rather than attending colleges. And they would like for administrators and board to be a little bit open-minded to it, and pushing students to be receptive towards vocational school rather than college, because it's cheaper, and some students can't afford it. And nowadays, with the jobs that we have available, all he pretty much needs is a vocational training. So I thought that was pretty interesting, and our next meeting is scheduled for November 7th. That concludes my meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay,
That's correct.
Union County School Board's report, Mr. Topolsky. Why, yes. we had our meeting on October 17th at the Westwood. Vice President Christy Tye from New Jersey School Boards was there. Also, Chris Jones gave a government relations update. The main talk for that evening was about school law from Lester E. Taylor III, a partner at Florio Petrucci, Steinhardt, and Capelli, and it had to do with ethics, and one of the other major issues was social media. So where social media starts to, board members get tied up, as well as whether or not the boards have the proper policies regarding social media and how they can get hooked up if their policies, if they try to do things to staff that the policies don't cover. And they cite a lot of lawsuits in that vein, some that are still continuing, even though they seem to have been settled. The one in Union comes to mind. As far as the state report, last week was the school board's workshop in Atlantic City, and I'm going to ask every board member who attended to save their major remarks until the November meeting. If you're not unable to give it in verbally, you can give it in writing and submit it. It is part of board policy that if you go to any workshops, you are required to give a report to the board. So that. Also, there is I will have a legislative committee meeting coming up, and there is a major delegate assembly meeting in November, which I will be attending my last delegate assembly. There are no resolutions on the agenda, which is amazing. It's the first time in my 18 years of attending those things. There are no changes to suggested to the board, then never mind done. However, Senator Steve Sweeney and former Ed Commissioner Lucille Davies will both be present at the meeting, and they're going to be talking about one of Sweeney's big things is to get a grip on state funding, to try and find a way that we don't run into these funding crises for school all the time. Those of you who may or may not be aware, after the budget was approved, there was a major piece of legislation that followed the budget, which was called S2, and it was signed into law by Governor Murphy, and I have some highlights of it, which I'm not going to go through, but what it does do is it puts into, it codifies actually following the formula, and it gives a timeline. So what people may not be aware of is that since 2009, schools have not been funded properly. And when the bottom fell through the funding through the state budget, after everybody was cut, and everybody was cut, we were cut. So much so that we had to get rid of over 100 people. The funding never went back, and it just slowly increased, but not following the funding formula. So you kind of got frozen. Every year we were frozen. Well, the problem with that is we should have been getting more money based on our actual makeup in terms of the number of students, the types of students. ESL, special needs, gives you more money. But other districts should have been losing money because their enrollments went down, etc. Everybody got frozen, so they weren't losing money. So what Senator Sweeney did last year and what is being done every year after that is there is an actual formula as to how much money your district is going to lose if you were getting too much. And and there's also, I think, a formula for how much money you will be getting percentage-wise. Dollar amounts are not sure because every year it's a game of chicken with the state budget. So you can never be sure of how much you're getting, but the percentage is supposed to go up. And the money you're supposed to get going up is the money they're taking away from the other districts. All right.
Sorry, that's an argument. I'm sorry.
Well, what happens with the other district? The other thing is that the attorney makes a good point. If your circumstances change, then your funding changes. So if you don't lose kids, you're not going to lose the money. Or if you gain kids, you'll get money back. So that's the theory behind that whole formula. There are woefully underfunded districts. Our favorite is Freehold Borough because our former superintendent happens to be the superintendent down there, and he's the one of the ones that filed a lawsuit against the state that started to get us our money back. That concludes my reports.
Mr. President, can I just clarify something? The report for workshop, did you say that has to be in writing?
No, it can be.
It can be.
It can be, or verbally next month.
Thank you.
All right. Now where are we? Ad hoc. Any security report? Oh, yes.
Yes, actually, I am very pleased to announce that the City Council approved their end of hiring Class 3 officers, and tonight we unanimously voted to push that along. So hopefully starting tomorrow we can go out and start advertising for Class 3 officers. It's very stringent as to who qualifies for this position, and hopefully we'll have the interviews and background checks, and it would be really nice to say that by January 1st we might get them in the school district. So good job, everybody.
Comments from board members? Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. Birch told me and I forgot.
As you're pointing.
Because I didn't just point to it. Sports update.
You got it, thank you. I have the fall sports update report for everyone. At the high school, our volleyball team, it's been an exceptionally exciting season for the Linden girls varsity volleyball team, culminating in this week's annual Pink Out game. The Linden girls volleyball team has experienced a complete turnaround, climbing back from a 0-4 start to an even 7-7 record with a few games left to play. Boys soccer, the Linden High School boys varsity soccer team is currently 2-9 on the season. Despite our current record and challenging schedule, the boys are in every game. The boys' energy and effort levels are tremendous. The girls varsity soccer team is a very young group that has shown steady improvement as the season has progressed. We're proud of our girls' toughness and their ability, their passion, and their intensity for the game. Linden girls tennis started the season with focusing on the key components to develop their skills and competitiveness. With challenging matches from all three group divisions, the girls got the opportunity to face different levels of competition. Boys cross country. The boys cross country team has enjoyed some early success during their dual meet season. Gearing up for the championship portion of the schedule, the team is training hard and looking forward to crushing the school record for the 5-man average at our conference championships, Union County Camp championships, and the state sectional championships. Congratulations to the girls cross country team on their historic victory at the conference championship at Oak Ridge Park in Clark, New Jersey. The girls won their first ever conference champion in Linden girls cross country history. Our football team is in the midst of an extremely successful season, currently 7-2. One individual highlight of significance, B.J. George, senior running back, eclipsed Juwan Dolbreese's previous school record of 2,959 yards to become Linden High School's all-time rushing leader. In our middle school, the football season has been a learning experience for many of our players. This year we had a large number of players playing organized football for the first time. The girls' middle school soccer team, consisting of 18 girls from McManus and Seoul, have been working hard all season. The season began with a difficult schedule, but the girls have been practicing hard and working together as a team to build up our offense and defense.
And they finished with 3 wins. Yay!
Boys soccer, with a current record of 4-5 and 1 tie, we will look forward to ending the season on a high note and a 500 record. After graduating 14 8th grade students last year and an undefeated season, the 2018 boys squad has done very well for being new to each other. Back to the high school, the Linden High School Marching Band finished their 2018 competitive season on Sunday, October 28th, when they competed in the U.S. Bands Group 2A State Championship at Rowan University. The band finished 6th out of 11 bands. The marching band competed in 6 other competitions this season, with their highest finish being 2nd place at competitions in East Brunswick, where they also won Best Visual, and North Brunswick. In addition, the band has performed at all varsity football games and the Pulaski Day Parade in New York City. And our ROTC. The drill team, we have had approximately 70 cadets that participate on our drill team. We have 75 cadets try out for the marksmanship team this year, with the top 20 earning a spot on the team. Orienteering team, we have 30 cadets that are on that team. And the academic team, it says we field an academic team of 25 to 30 cadets that compete nationally against other JROTC programs via postal competitions. They also participate in the annual national academic exam that is offered by the NJROTC program. This team has been practicing 3 times a week after school since September. That concludes my fall sports report.
But you've forgotten something. The football team is playing. They were seated 4th, and will be playing Friday night at home
Against Cranford.
against Cranford,
Yes.
which we haven't played Cranford in forever.
I was glad to see the marching band included, because usually they get cut out of those reports, so thank you.
Mrs. Birch.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Birch. Now, comments from
Yes. I know that we are going to be leaving our convention learning till next month, and I guess we'll go over everything. However, something that Mrs. Birch touched upon on the math packets, I just happened to go to a class, it was Governance 3, with Vince DeLucia, who is a phenomenal speaker, who I've heard, who's taught me several classes over the last 3 years. And one of the things that he specifically touched upon was that type of summer math packet with giving the answers, because we need to get away from just thinking that having the correct answer is doing anything. We have calculators at our disposal all the time, so it's not so much doing the basics, the fundamentals of math, but you have to understand the principles behind it. So if you can show how, then it doesn't really make as big of a difference, especially on the summer math packets, if you got 4 times 4 wrong, if you understand the whole complex formula of the math. So we need to, as a country, move away from just formalistic thinking and really push our kids to think critically. So that was a really big point made at the student governance training. Also touching upon
that was student achievement.
Student achievement
It was
governance.
government.
So that was, every board member is required to take a minimum amount of training, and that's the minimum for the 3rd year. Some board members go over and above. Also, because I'm not master yet, I have to finish off my third thing.
Oh, yeah, president.
Higher than as a board member.
Higher.
Yeah.
I think it's called Jedi.
But I will be a master boardsman in the shortest known period of time.
I heard that too.
Okay, so the Pontonian, we were able to meet with again, and we have a working relationship with Pontonian. And one of the things that I want to hit home that everybody knows, every parent, all the employees who work in the school, in our cafeterias, every student getting lunch can get unlimited fruits and vegetables. So if your child is hungry and the food is not enough, they can go back for seconds and thirds for fruits and vegetables.
And fourths and fifths.
And fourths and fifths. If they want more fruits and vegetables, I can't stress this highly enough. We've worked with Pontonian. We're drilling it home with their employees so that everybody knows kids are hungry, fruits and vegetables free. And the last thing I wanted to touch upon was also from the EST, where we had our data guru and his magnificent speaker who does a great presentation. I just want to reiterate for anybody who is unsure, because there's some publications going around saying that our test scores have gone down. That is in fact a lie. Our test scores have gone up. So much so that in some grades that we are exceeding the New Jersey average, more than 20% increasing. All these numbers, all these presentations, Dr. Robertosi has put on the district website. It's right on the homepage. You can go through it at your leisure because there are many, many slides documenting the great work that our teachers and coaches have done over the past couple of years. And I really want to publicly apologize to all of the employees who, because of the season that we're in, are having their work, their careers, their life's passion being thrown into the bus because of me. And I think that's completely unfair. So to the teachers, to the coaches, to all the employees who've worked so hard to make our district grow, I say thank you for all that you've done, and I'm sorry. And on my final note, the most people that we've had in a long time at a board meeting, I think it's fabulous, and I'm glad that people who've never taken an interest in board meetings ever, they're showing up, and I hope they continue to support us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Blunt. Any down there?
No, sir.
Mrs. Walsh?
Of course, Mrs. Welsh, I only have 2 more meetings by choice, so I have a little bit to say. I thought a lot about what I was going to say tonight, but I decided that I'm definitely going to be taking the high road this evening. So first I would like to say that I really want to congratulate all the teachers that were honored and staff that were honored tonight. As a teacher myself, I can totally relate. 25 plus years, that is really something to celebrate. You guys are awesome. So thank you for all you do for all the kids in our district. And also I wanted to shout out to Mr. Fingerlin at McManus and the faculty there. They're awesome, helping me out with a few situations the past couple of weeks, and my daughter Caitlin. So way to go over there. And really quickly, I had a conversation today with Mrs. D'Annunzio, the media specialist there, and she was telling me that she was on her way out to purchase a carpet for the media center because she has set up a reading area in the media center, and on their lunches, the students are coming into the media center and they are reading books, real books. They're not reading on their computers, they're not reading on their iPads or their Kindles or their phones. They're actually coming into the media center because she has created a space for them to feel comfortable and to want to come there and to actually read books. So when she told me that, I was so excited. We had a pretty lengthy conversation about that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. All right, finally, I'm going to make a few comments before I allow the public to comment. first of all, Ms. Guillaume made reference to a study about students who weren't going to college.
Yes.
I happen to have served on that committee, and it was, they had a couple of presentations. As a matter of fact, one of them was October 2nd in North Brunswick, and when I typed in my GPS, it was taking me to New Brunswick. But I found North Brunswick High School anyway. It lists 69 separate points for different entities to address in order to get students out of the mindset of having to go to college. The fact of the matter is, there are instances where 2 years past high school, you will be earning more than a college graduate without the debt of a college graduate. And that is a big deal. And so this report can be found online. If you go to the New Jersey School Boards Association site, it's there. It can be downloaded. It was quite an undertaking. We had it took us over a year to put together, and I'm very proud of that. Being a shop teacher, when I was working, I had to bring it up for you, Mrs. Maloney.
I'm sorry. Were you a teacher?
I used to teach, yeah.
I didn't know that.
The funny thing is that our colleges don't train those teachers anymore. They don't train home ec teachers. They don't train shop teachers. And even some of the schools in Pennsylvania stopped doing it. And so you can't even find it. There's only one school in New Jersey that even trains anything like a shop teacher, and that's TCNJ. And they graduated, how many last year, Danny? Two? Three? So those programs need to be brought back so that we can. A lot of schools you'll see close down their shops. They don't close them down because they're too expensive. They close them down because they can't find teachers to teach them. That almost happened to us. So that was great. The other thing is, yesterday I released a statement concerning two major factors. Again, Mrs. Villani touched on information that is out in the public that is simply not true. One of them has to do with our budget, and the second has to do with the treatment of Seoul Middle School. In terms of our budget, if you don't know how the budget works, we have to have a finished budget in by the end of March or the beginning of April, I believe. End of March, period. It has to be reviewed by the county superintendent. We don't know how much money we're getting until the governor gives his budget address, which is in the middle of February, usually. This past year, we were told that we were getting $500,000 more than we did last year. So when we make our budget, that's the number we use. Because if we don't use that number, it's going to get turned back to us by the county superintendent. The state doesn't have to approve their budget till the end of June. And everybody knows the last 2 years, the budget process went into July. So we did get more money than the $500,000 we were told. But by that time, our budget was already in place. We did not receive any of the additional money until September. So for us to knowingly not reduce taxes is a lie, period. Number two, Seoul Middle School. 2 years ago, 2017, in the summer, while the McManus High School, McManus Auditorium was being renovated, the entire building of Seoul was being renovated. All the classrooms were painted, the halls were painted, both locker rooms were gutted and replaced, new lockers and everything, and we purchased property and built them a parking lot so that the residents in the area didn't have to worry about it. After a particularly wet winter, we found leaks. leaks in the roof, leaks in the wall. So this past summer, the Soul Auditorium was supposed to be renovated. Instead, we fixed the problems with Soul. We fixed the leaky roof, we fixed the weeping walls. Because, in case you don't know it, if they're brick and they need to be repointed, the water literally comes in through the walls. Next summer, Soul is scheduled to have the auditorium refurbished. So Soul has not been neglected. Anybody who has complaints about some of the things that happen here, we would be more than happy to address. All you have to do is come here to a meeting and tell us. And then we can either correct the information or find out if, in fact, what you said is true and address it. That's simple. That concludes my report.
I believe that was one of the things that, how we have a surplus that we keep building, so we're getting a bigger and bigger surplus. And I have Ms. Gaylord here who can testify that every year that we have anything that's in surplus gets applied to the tax levy to lower the taxes to the city. And last year's surplus, I believe, don't quote me, $2,885,601 was that was it. Okay, it was rolled over to the tax levy. There is no surplus that is being built and holding on to. It's just not true. It's not happening. So if you have any questions, please go see Ms. Gaylord, go see Dr. Robertosi, and they will give you the answers.
Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn. Second? Second. All in favor?
Aye.